Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Peter Jennings. I go by CSURAM88 across the daily fantasy industry. Back in FantasyLabs doing another model preview this week for the Canadian Open. In an interesting spot in golf, we have the Canadian Open in between the British Open and the PGA Championship. So, 3 great weeks of golf. You have 2 majors, and the Canadian Open actually is a nice, strong field. So, a lot of fun for golf fans, and certainly I am enjoying it. Let's dive into the model here right off the bat. I was just scrolling through and looking at it before, but I feel pretty good about this model. It's rating with a plus minus above 4, which is challenging to do, and I do feel like it's an accuracy course, which I baked into the model pretty well, and I actually like a lot of the guys in the model that this is spitting out. So let's take a look here. We have long-term adjusted round at 26 points. I have long-term green and regulation at 1. Actually, I had long-term adjusted round at 27 and didn't have this weighted at all. And bumped it up to 1 and kind of fiddled with it. And this gave me the highest plus minus. So I'm just leaving it and going with that. I have long-term driving accuracy at 10, which, again, I'm taking the accuracy angle. I have long-term birdie score at 7. This is one thing I'm doing in almost all my models now is having birdies weighted. It's just absolutely so critical in DraftKings, and I want that baked into my model most weeks. Farther down here, I have recent green regulation score at 34. So if you've watched any of these, you know a big part of my combination almost every week is long-term adjusted round, which I think is a critical stat to identify value golfers. And then recent green regulation score, which I think is the best stat to kind of capture current form where there's not a lot of noise relative to other stats. Putting is so noisy, and players can get really hot or cold. There's a lot of variance with putting, so taking that out and just looking at how often players are hitting greens is a great way to identify guys who are hitting the ball well. I also have recent driving accuracy at 10 points, which, again, I'm going after the accuracy angle. I have birdie score recent at 6 points. And then scrolling down, I have the course adjusted round at 6 points. Again, it's tougher with the course history we have here because it moves around. But I do think this is a great model. It looks pretty strong to me. Kuchar is probably my favorite overall play in the entire field. He will be in my cash games most likely at 10-6. Just perfect course for him. He has good history. I'm going to be all over him. Love Grillo. If you've watched these, he shows up regularly, especially on accuracy courses. Great accuracy and green regulation percentages, both long-term 69.1, 70.4. Then we go to short-term. He's still making a good amount of greens and accuracy, even though it's not quite as good as long-term. Kyle Stanley is an interesting one. We talked about him on the podcast. Colin actually likes him quite a bit too. Doesn't have the greatest game log, but was consistent at one point. And then what I really like is the recent form, 73.1% of greens. It's very strong and hitting the ball accurately at 6,100. Definitely going to have a lot of exposure to him in tournaments. Jim Furyk, I like anytime it's an accuracy ball strikers course. I think he's a great play. And the one thing that's nice about Furyk, if we look here at his game log, he's just finding himself back into Jim Furyk form. When he was missing those cuts right out the bat, when he first came back, that was after the wrist injury, and since the Memorial, he hasn't missed a cut, and he's just been playing solid golf. You're seeing he's hitting a lot of greens, struggled at the British, but still hit the ball accurately, and he's a great scrambler, so I think Furyk's a nice play as well. David Hearn, Streelman, Saunders, I think those plays are all fine. Not really as high in Saunders relative to the other guys, but Summer Hayes is a guy that's really standing out to me as a really nice cash game play. We look here, hasn't missed a cut since March, or since April, I guess. He missed his last one in March. Been incredibly consistent, and I just think he's a great value at 7,000. I also love Roberto Castro, who is Colin, one of his favorite plays. Seeing Jason Day here, I realized I didn't talk about Dustin Johnson either. I definitely am waiting Dustin Johnson over Jason Day, and I talked about that a little bit on the podcast, but basically the reason why is Dustin Johnson's recent form is just so much better. They're the two best players in the world, but one thing that it's a big indicator for me is 61% accuracy and 70% in greens in recent form, and then if we go down to Jason Day, they're both bad numbers. 45% accuracy, 59.7 GIR. Heard rumblings of Day not being 100% as well, and it's really been the putter that's bailing him out. So I have a hard time taking Day over Dustin Johnson unless it's in tournaments, just because Dustin Johnson will probably be a little bit more heavily owned. Scroll a little bit farther down, Swafford's one of Colin's favorite. He's more of a distance guy than an accuracy guy in general, but I still like him. Vegas is rating really high, and a large part of that is because he's hit so many greens recently. A little too much variance for me, for him in cash, but I will have him in tournaments. Yeah, just kind of scrolling through down here. I like Brian Palmer a lot, even though this is not a good course fit. He's more of a driving distance guy, not as accurate, so he's not perfect course fit, but this is just way too cheap for him. It's kind of like Bubba Watson last week at the Open. Just too good of a price, even without the course fit, to not play him. Feeling somewhat similar. I'll probably won't have Palmer in cash. Or we'll see, but I do think he's interesting. Then some of my favorite plays are down here. Love McGirt. I think he's an excellent play. Has great history here. Love Fitzpatrick. Love Colt Knost. All those guys are just great plays. Great accuracy guys. You can see here with Fitzpatrick, high green, high accuracy long term. Same thing with Knost. If we go to recent form, it's still solid for both these guys. I love Fitzpatrick, love Knost, and love McGirt, who has great history here. One last guy, I guess, I'll talk about. I guess there's a couple of guys, but I don't know. There's not too many, anyone too exciting. The one guy I definitely want to talk about is Snedeker. He has won this event, I believe, or got runner-up. Has good course history. I believe he won. Not this specific. I believe he won at 14. I could be wrong, but he's definitely a play that's interesting because everyone's going to be on Kuchar, and if you want to pivot to someone in that same price range, and he's really the only one, is Snedeker. So I think he's a great leverage play, especially in tournaments if you want to go a different direction. And then there's really not that many other players standing out. Harman's fine with the pro trends there. That's just kind of the gist of it. But I feel great about these guys up top. Love Roberto Castro, like I talked about. I think he's a good play. And then there's a ton of guys down here that I think are interesting and guys that I'll have a lot of exposure to. So hope this is helpful for you guys. I'm excited for the next major, the PGA Championship coming up as well. We'll have more content on that. As always, looking forward to seeing more Fantasy Lab subscribers at the top of the leaderboard.